Okay, we are live.
Hello, family. We're
We
here
are
with you
live. We are live. We are live.
on this edition of King Talk.
On this
And what
edition
an
of King Talk.
interesting one it will be.
We're gonna let the vibes come out for a little bit, family. We are happy to be here on a Wednesday night, on a quite warm night here in Baltimore, Maryland. I am
Mhm.
Alex Iowas. This damn gnat keeps getting on my nerves. This gnat is about to die.
And I'm called Tay's Ransom, people. You already know that. But
And
anyway.
I'm here with my esteemed co-host called Trey's Ransom.
Mm.
Um,
Yes.
and we're here, on a Wednesday night. We're happy to be here. Nobody in the chat right now,
Okay.
but we're always happy to be here. And what an important show we have tonight, most definitely. So let me go ahead and turn this beautiful, beautiful song down. This
Yes.
is
Black
mini. This is
Gold.
this is actually Minnie Riperton and the Rotary Connection, and the song is called "I Am the Black Gold of the Sun." No, we do not own any copyrights to this music, so don't come after us.
Yeah,
Just a
yeah.
beautiful song, and it encapsulates who we are as a people.
Absolutely, absolutely. That's the black lady.
Okay.
Yeah. As I say.
So, first of all, let me just say to the family that we are very, very happy. We're very happy and very grateful for all of the support that we've been getting on the King Talk Black page on Facebook. We're past 400 followers on that page. Last time I checked, we were up to like 416, and it
Hmm.
grows. It's just growing. It just keeps growing. But where we need the help, family, and I'm just, shout out to the person that's there. Thank you, family, for joining us on the Wednesday night. Where we need to help is on our YouTube page. On our YouTube page, we're stalled out at 6 subscribers.
Hmm.
So, right in the chat, family, go up on the King Talk Black page in the chat, and you will see a link there. If you click on that link, that will take you straight to the YouTube page. The King Talk YouTube page is where it will take you. Go there and please like and please subscribe, family. It doesn't cost you anything. It takes us a few minutes. Please do that for us,
Yes.
for me, Alex Ayawas, and my esteemed co-host, Cortez Ransom.
Yes, we
We are
would
King
greatly
Talk.
appreciate it.
We greatly appreciate it. But the King Talk Black page is, I guess, I can officially say that's blowing up, and that's been a success, and it's been a constant source of positivity for me to be able to go up there and see all of the support that we're getting from the family. So we definitely want to just thank the family for any type of support that we're getting, that sort
And
of thing. So yeah,
and by
most
all means, also please follow going over to Instagram to the King Talk Black page and just hit the follow button. Only takes a second. Tap the
right.
follow over there on Instagram as well. So yeah,
Thank you for pointing that out because I had forgotten that. So
yeah.
thank you, Cortez, for pointing that out. Where we do have that as well. Definitely go there and support that. Um,
Yeah, we might come over there sometime and do some stuff over there because now Instagram allows you to have like 4 people on there at one time. So we could invite 2 other people if we chose to do that. We could
right,
go on Instagram and have 2 other people on there with us to have a discussion from
right.
Instagram if we wanted to do that.
Most
Yeah.
most definitely. Um, Also, if anybody, shout out to the family that's there.
Hmm.
Thank you for joining us here on our Wednesday night. If you, family, or if anybody wants to join us in this particular discussion on tonight,
Hmm.
There is a link in the there's a link in the chat, and that link is for the King Talk Black page. There's two links, one for YouTube, one for King Talk on YouTube, and the other one for the King Talk Black page on Facebook. You can click on that link, family. I can have up to 10 people in here at a time. Thank you for the family, that's come. One just came in and they just left, and then another one just came in and they just left. That sort of thing. So
yeah,
whoever you are, thank you for at least, coming here and spending like a little bit of time with us. That sort of thing. But if you want to come up here and join us, you definitely can do that. So what we're going to do now is we're going to go into our current events, and I'm going to not but I'm going to allow my esteemed co-host to take the lead on that, and then I will follow through. And then after that, we're going to segue right into the discussion of tonight, which is a very, very important discussion on religion and that sort of thing, but right now we're just going to go into the current events. So
we're going to stay away from a certain thing that DMX's family is upset about, because they put some untruths out there about his death or how it occurred.
Right.
In reference to a certain thing that people have to get shot in their arm. Anyway, but
right.
we can talk, since we have to leave that alone. I really want to talk about it, but we have to leave that alone for now.
We can talk about it. It's just, I want to paraphrase and just put it out there right now, family. We're not saying we're not saying to not go take care of your health. We're not saying to not go get the V, the vac. We're not saying that. Mm-hmm. We're not saying that at all. Use your own discretion, family. The only thing that we're saying on King Talk is use your own discretion, follow your own intuition, follow your own, how you want to live your life, and it is, what it is. We're not saying that, casting for or against. We're just saying use your own discretion in things, use your own common sense, use your own intelligence, that sort of thing. So go ahead.
I'm gonna leave it alone. I'm gonna leave it alone because I can't say everything I want to about it. So,
right.
People already know how I feel about it anyway, and I'm not knocking anybody who chooses to get it, but you already know how I feel. But anyway, I'm gonna move on to this whole situation. This time last week, a week before Pride, a week from Pride yesterday, last Tuesday, all of us were like sitting on the edge of our seats with bated breath, stomach all tied up in knots, thinking about what was going to be said as far as this verdict is concerned with the George Floyd murder trial. And I was one of those people who had my stomach in knots, because it's very stressful living under this system and watching them kill our people every day and normally getting away with it. And a lot of our people are under the impression that because they found Derek Chauvin guilty on all counts, that means that there's some change that's happening in this country, that all of a sudden now they're going to start respecting our lives, and nothing can be further from the truth, because since last week, over 6 Black people have been murdered by cops. That's the ones that we know about anyway, the ones that made the news. Over 6 Black people have been murdered by the cops, and cold blood, like the brother Andrew Brown Jr. in North Carolina. They shot him in the back of the head and all this other kind of stuff, which they did not need to do that. The brother was not armed or dangerous or anything. And it always amazes me that, you have black people or some of our people who will excuse certain things, like the young sister, the young child, 15-year-old Micaiah Bryant. You have some black people excusing this cop shooting her because she had a knife in her hand. Um, and they're not looking at the fact that 9 times out of 10, had that been a 15 or 16-year-old Caucasian girl, that cop would have handled that shit totally different. He would have found another option other than shooting this girl 4 times and killing her. He wouldn't have just showed up on the spot, even if he saw a white girl with a knife in her hand, or a Caucasian girl with a knife in her hand. He would not have just showed up and started shooting her 4 times. On top of that, he would have tried to talk to her. He would have yelled out to her and tried to, get her to not do what she was doing, because first of all, she was being attacked. People came to her house to fight her. One of which, at least one of them, was a grown ass woman who was 28 years old coming to fight a 15-year-old. That makes absolutely no sense to me. Why are you, a grown adult, almost 30 years old, coming to fight a 15 or 16-year-old child? To me, that's totally wrong. But again, the cop was wrong, I feel, for just coming up, showing up, and just shooting her. And I don't care what anybody else says. There's no excuse for what he did. He would have found another way, because we've seen countless times. We've seen countless times how Caucasians have physically fought for police, physically fought the police, even held knives on the police, since they want to talk about Makai having a knife. There have been cops who have had white people with knives, Caucasians with knives, and Caucasians with guns, aiming guns at them, but they still find a way to try to talk them down. They'll try, to get them to surrender or whatever. They don't just automatically start shooting because they see a Caucasian with a weapon, but they will shoot us whether we have a weapon or not. And our people need to think about that, because even if that young girl didn't even have a weapon, he probably would have still shot her. Like that when Tamir Rice was murdered, he had a damn toy gun in his hand, a toy gun, and that cop got out of the police car. I remember seeing the tape. That cop got out of the car, and 2 seconds later, he shot Tamir.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't even try to talk to the boy. Well, he was 12 years old. He didn't even try to talk to the child. He just showed up. As soon as he got out the car, bam, bam, he shot the boy.
Right.
And again, had that been a 12 or 13-year-old Caucasian boy, that cop would have not just jumped out the car and just started shooting a little white or Caucasian kid like that. It's because they don't respect Black lives. It's because also they don't see Black children as children. They don't see Black children as children. Our children are looked at like they're grown, even when they're 5 years old. You've seen videotapes of how they throw our children around. It's like 5 years old, and put them in handcuffs and stuff like that. But they would never do that to a Caucasian child. They do that to our children. And this whole idea that things have changed is just ridiculous to me, that our people still believe in this system, thinking that the system is going to change. Again, like you have what happened just a week ago, and now a week later you have over 6 people, 6 Black people murdered by cops. So how can you really think this is going to change? It's continuously happening. Last week it was justice for George Floyd, justice for that person. Now it's justice for Micaiah Bryant, justice for Andrew Brown Jr. Still saying, well, they don't really talk about it much, but I think that trial is going on now. It's supposed to be coming up soon. Ahmaud Arbery. I think that trial is going on, but it just hasn't been televised. We don't get one case closed good before we already have to say justice for another Black person who's been gunned down by the cops unjustly.
Right.
So we just need to stop believing in this bullshit that it's going to change, because it's not. I feel like we have a responsibility to our children to stop passing on the torch of oppression. And that's exactly what we keep doing. Every time we keep talking about Are we going to keep fighting racism? You got to keep fighting racism. And we keep passing that on to our children, that they got to fight this racism that we didn't create, instead of trying to pass on, empowerment to our children, Black empowerment and Black economics. We keep passing on that they got to fight racism, which we did not create. And nobody is going to convince me that I, as a Black man, or you as a Black man, or any Black person was put on this earth to spend our entire existence fighting racism. We were not put on this earth to spend our entire existence trying to convince white people to stop being racist, or Caucasians from being racist, the ones who are racist. We weren't put on this earth to spend our lives focused on them and trying to change their mind.
Right. I completely agree with you, brother. Since the impasse, I would say the impasse of the verdict for George Floyd, what that was a snapshot of our collective power as a people. That's really, really, truly what that was, because they knew that we were talking about, Regina King and what she said. They knew, right. They knew what would have happened if that had not. If that had not happened, if they had not given us an impasse.
Right.
We understand what would have happened, and what would, and it probably would have continued to happen. So
right.
Data can't have that, because that's bad for business. That's bad for the I'm gonna say the gross, what's that called, the GDP, gross domestic product, GDP. I hope I'm using the right term. GDP, gross domestic product. And when you look at the product, when you look at the gross domestic product of this country, and you take that and you tie that in with the collective of Black people, with the collective of melanated people here in this country, the whole thing just opens up for you, and you get to see what the whole shebang is, and why they have to keep you marching in the parade. They have to keep you as the hamster on the wheel. They got to keep you into that particular mindset right there. For the place of the fact is that if they don't, it's going to be very, very bad for the GDP, the gross domestic product of this particular nation, because we understand that we are the main drivers of that. You remove the Black equation out of that, it falls.
Right.
It falls pretty much overnight. It will fall. This whole scheme, murderous scheme of what they're calling a nation, will collapse overnight without Black participation, without you putting your energy and your belief into it. They understand that. So it wasn't so much, that you got justice with George Floyd. What you got was an impasse, because they already knew what was going to be the after effect of that, and they didn't want that. So what that was a quick little snapshot of what our collective power can accomplish as a people, if we would just resign and reconcile ourselves to realize the power that we have individually, and the power that we have collectively, as far as being a self-liberating and self-governed people. We understand that's why every last one of our leaders were either murdered,
Right.
deported, whatever which way that they could take them down. That's how they took them down, because they knew the power of a concerted and persistent Black, or shall we say melaninated, or why we, and a lot of times, I'll say melanite effort geared towards self-liberation, geared towards self-empowerment, geared towards self-equity, those sort of things. It spells a very, very bad day for America when we're not participating in what America is. So, like I said, on the impromptu segment, you were a commodity when they got here. When they got here and they encountered the indigenous, autochthonous, melaninated people, the copper-colored people here, and the darker-hued people here, you were a commodity when they saw you as a way, towards what was going to be a boon for them. And when they pulled you from the shores of West Africa and brought you over here, you were a commodity for them.
Right.
So you're still a commodity for them. They never really, really, truly was taking into account your humanity, or you just being a living, inalienable being. Every human being, as this nation supposedly stipulates, it says, is endowed with what? Is endowed with inalienable rights.
Right.
That give you, the right to truth, happiness, truth, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. If I'm not mistaken, if I'm not getting that wrong or getting it twisted.
Yeah.
You were never seen like that. They never saw you like that. And so the original infraction of what the United States of America is built upon, which is the commodification and the enslavement of a people, is still resonating at this time, all of these hundreds of years later. We understand what that is, and you got to continue to be the commodity. If we pull out, that's it. It's over. Because we are the ones, as far as our energy is concerned, that's driving this whole thing, that you're calling, the United States of America, as far as, and, of course, the dichotomous government, that is here, that has been, particularly murderous, towards our people. So when they got over here, they claimed manifest destiny, and they started to wholesale take over the land and clear y'all out in whatever way, that they, could do. Murder, which was wholesale pretty much, enslavement, disease, that sort of a thing.
Yeah.
We understand. And until that infraction is repaired and corrected, I already said it, and I hope I'm wrong. I really, really hope I'm wrong. But the killings will continue. The disease will continue. The mass confusion and everything that we go through individually and collectively as a people, as far as being citizens here in the United States, in terms of its history, we will continue to go through until Caucasus people get together and resign that they're going to drop or reconcile or reverse the infraction that they put on our bodies, that they put on our souls, that they put on our minds. Y'all can march till kingdom come. Y'all can march till ad infinitum until that's corrected, or we get together as a people and correct it. It's nothing's going to change. They're going to you're going to sooner or later you're going to wake up tomorrow or maybe another day down the line, and it's going to be more. It's going to be more killings and all of the unrest, because that's what the United States of America was conceived in. It was conceived in the murder and subjugation, genocide, and commodification for commercial purposes.
Right.
You know, they was trying to make money off of you, and they still trying to make money off of you. You were the fiat. You were the driver of all of their economies. And so that's why, you know, they were saying, you know, that the South and, you know, the North went to war. You know, that's what supposedly the, you know, the Civil War was about.
Right.
Was the commodification of a people, because that's was the, you were the greatest boom for the economies in the South.
Yeah.
Which had, you know, us out there in the fields from sun up to sundown, picking cotton, you know, had them, you know, using, we were basically being, you know, to rather, you know, just to go into it, you know, we were basically being bred like cattle.
Right.
You see how cattle was just kind of like bred, and they keep breeding the cattle, and then sooner or later, you know, you're going to let the cattle graze, you know, you're going to let the cattle be cattle, whatever. The next thing you know, you know, the cattle got to do what? The cattle got to go to the slaughterhouse because somebody has to have meat. The chicken, you know, you can let the chickens go ahead and do what they're doing, but sooner or later somebody got to kill the chicken so that so that I can have some, you know, some roast chicken. And so the thing, that's how they saw us as a people. So there's no surprise that the first thing in their minds, because that delusion is still resonating in the minds of Caucasus people, seeing you really, really, truly as a commodity to be brutally subjugated, basically, until that's corrected, they're going to keep doing it. So, and that's why the police killings, ever since the George Floyd verdict, you know, that's why these police killings are continuing, because Caucasus people are still walking around in their minds, seeing you as the commodity, or seeing you now so much now seeing you as the threat that has to be subjugated.
Right.
And a lot of times, more often than not, brutally subjugated. That's exactly why George Floyd got killed. That's exactly why, you know, what's the brother who they went and shot in the back? What's his name? They shot him.
Brown Jr. Andrew Brown Jr.
Andrew Brown. That's exactly why, you know, that bullet, you know, they said they had shot him on the arm, and then the last bullet was a shot right straight, you know, to the back of his head, which of course is what is probably the one, you know, that killed him.
The shot that killed him. Yeah, the ones to his arm didn't kill him.
And so now they're saying that Merrick Garland, well, I think it's that's a new attorney general, right? They're saying that he's now so-called doing a investigation of the Minneapolis Police Department. And I think since he announced that, they're going to be investigating, you know, a couple of other, you know, police departments. And what I said when I first seen that was that he should investigate the whole police departments. All of the police departments from the East Coast to the West Coast, from the North to the South, have to be investigated. Because if when they do, they're going to find mass corruption. They're going to find mass corruption. That's the only way that they're going to find things done, you know, bones hid, bodies hid, things not reported, things underreported, things trumped up. It's time. It's time to lift the stone off of You know, when you used to, go outside. I remember I used to go outside as a kid after it had rained, and there would be a stone there, and I would lift the stone up. And when I would lift the stone up, there would be all these crawly and squiggly. It's time to do that now. It's time to it's time to lift up that covering and reveal the seedy, murderous underbelly of what the United States of America is in relation to melaninated people, melanite people, so-called black people, copper-colored people, that sort of a thing. And when they do that, and if they really, really, really true about it, and they're really, really going to be thorough about it, they're going to see the years upon years upon years of cover-ups and fiascos and mass corruption that the police department is. They're probably also going to find, that amongst the ranks are certain lone wolves, or shall we say adherents, or shall we say members of the Ku Klux, of the Knights Ku Klux, Knights of the Ku Klux, or Knights of the Klan, or what you would call the Ku Klux Klan, and that sort of a thing. They're probably going to find that too as well amongst their ranks, if they're really, really, truly thorough about what they're saying, of what what the new Attorney General is saying that he is going to do. In the meantime, we as a people really, really need to resign ourselves, as I said before, to look at our individual and our collective power, where these police killings, are concerned. That sort of a thing. They really, really, truly need to. We need to resign ourselves, to correct what has been done to us, because it takes a change in our mindset as a people, and it on the inner, and it takes a change, on who we've been dealing with, as far as the Caucus, of what you would call, so-called white people, that sort of thing. We understand that, Caucasus people became white. White in essence is an allodial title that was bestowed upon the original copper-colored people who were here. And I hope I'm really, really, truly getting this correct. They became white in and around, the 16th century. They became white. They were not white. They became white as decreed by the monarchy in England, because they seen that the poor Caucasus people were getting with the poor black people here, and they were, helping one another out, and they couldn't have that. So in and around the 16th century, they gave a designation. They were the ones who were cast out of England. They were the ones who were so-called, what you would call white trash, who were cast out of England and just were exiled over here. And then when we started to build societies with them, well, we already had our societies over here, and when we would, went to help them as a people, they was like, oh no, we can't. Of course, that's going to be bad for business. Can't have that.
Right.
Can't have that. So what had happened was they gave them a designation of, what they did is they gave them the designation of white. Now y'all can be what their version of what white was. Like I said, it was an original allodial status symbol that was placed on the copper-colored people. They were called the free white persons of, America, or what I would call the true Americans, is what they were. And so it was a distinction in the status. It really, really had nothing to do with phenotype. It had nothing to do with phenotype. It had nothing to do with how, your physiological, phenotypical appearance. It had nothing to do with that. It was all a case system. And you had to be designated within that case system to be able to have certain rights. The Caucasus people that were over here did not have it until the monarchies in England gave it to them so that they could start hating us more than what they hated themselves.
Right.
And that's what started rolling. But make no mistake about it, they've been killing indigenous people. They've been killing the indigenous people of America since they got over here. They brought their disease, their death, their war, and their deception, what you would call, the four horsemen of the apocalypse is what you would call that, which, the first horse is the white horse of deception. The second horse is the red horse of war. The third horse is the black horse of what? Of famine and disease. And the fourth horse is the pale horse of death. They brought all of that over here when they got over here, and they claimed manifest destiny, which basically says that one group of people has the God-given right to brutally subjugate another people. That's what really, really, truly manifest destiny is. So,
well, they've done that wherever they go, not just here. But
true, but of course, we're just talking about here in the United States. We understand that they've done this everywhere that they have gone. Caucasus people, collectively has resigned themselves to do that, to other people as far as committing genocide upon them or getting them to commit genocide upon one another so that they could come and steal the riches for themselves to empower themselves into being, what they are now. So like I said, here and all around the whole world, you have always been the commodity. You have always been the driver of their riches, of their empowerment. You bring yourself up out of that, no more riches, no more empowerment.
Yeah.
It is what it is.
Well,
and they're going to continue to do it, until we resign ourselves really more so to study our history in relation to them, in relation to what this nation is, and take what we get from the study of our history to empower ourselves and liberate ourselves as a people here in the so-called United States of America. Yeah. But what else did you want to say?
Nothing. I mean, just.
Well, let's talk about the CDC. The CDC. Let's talk about that, for a little minute. The CDC, just, they just said that, y'all can go places without the mask now. Y'all can go places without the mask. You still have to mask up if you're going to the supermarket. You still have to mask up, if you're going to the mall, baseball game or concert, you still got to mask up. As far as large groups of people are concerned, you still got to mask up. But if you just want to take a stroll through the park, you can take a stroll through the park without a mask. Whether you are, let me point this out, whether you are vaccinated, this is the CDC, this is not me. I saw this on the news today, whether you are vaccinated or not, whether you are fully vaccinated or not vaccinated, you can dispense with the mask. You can be in small groups of people without masking up. So I guess what they're saying is that what they call herd immunity is growing, and so that's why they're relaxing restrictions around masking and people just going outside and just doing what normal, regular people do outside, without the mask. However, you still have to mask up if you're going into stores, department stores, malls,
Right.
that whole thing. So I just felt as though, this, as a, it's just basically it's a public service announcement just to put that out. And then, of course, I said it before. I'm gonna say it again here at King Talk. We're not telling anybody not to do anything. The only thing that we've ever said here at King Talk is for people, especially our people,
Right.
Melanites, to use their own discretion, use their own clear judgment, use their own intuition as far as the choices that they are going to make or not going to make with their bodies, with their minds, and with their souls. So,
Right. Yeah. I'm not messing with it. But
yeah, it's a lot. As far as this whole, it never really was a net neutrality.
right.
Let me just go ahead and just say it was never really a net neutrality. They had us really thinking that it was a net neutrality, and it wasn't. The net, I really feel as though, as far as the internet, particularly where social media is concerned, was always convened so that they could have greater control over our minds as a people.
Right.
So that's to me. I mean, I understand a lot of y'all out here, enjoy social media. Some of y'all are probably really, getting rich off of social, whatever, however you use it,
Right.
to each his own.
Right.
With me, it was never any net neutrality. So, of course, people who are, saying things, as far as, the whole VAC, topic is concerned, are being, censored. And some people are being removed. So we're committed at Key Talk, to tell the people, the truth. There's never really truly been a net neutrality. They will always convene the net so that they could use the so you could willfully turn your information over to them so that they could use it against you.
Right.
Period. I mean, if you ask me, if you ask a cynical person like me, yes.
Yeah.
So.
Well, yeah. I have nothing to say about it right now.
Right.
I'm gonna leave it
Right.
alone. But here we are, talking about religion being the great divider
Right.
of our people. And the subject tonight, well, this is a two-parter. This is part one, talking about church hurt. And we did invite, I don't know, I can't see if anybody's in here or not. You can see.
There's one person in the chat right now. I want to shout out to that one person in the chat who's just,
if you're
the same person,
and if that's the same person,
you've been hanging tough with us we're pretty much a little past 43 minutes now.
Right.
Since we've been talking about current events. So shout out to that one person that's there. We greatly appreciate you being here. There was as much as 3 people here in the chat. I'm also going to put it out, to whoever is out there watching, to the one that's watching right now, during a certain segment, after we go into the topic, and we wade into the topic and the relative solutions to the topic. If you want to come on here and build with us, you can. There is a link on the King Talk Black page on Facebook. There's a link there right in the chat. You just go right up on that link, family. And you can click on that link and we'll let you come in to the studio with us and build with us tonight as we wade into this very, very important discussion about religion being the great divider, that it is, amongst our people. And part one, which, we're calling church hurt, because we want to focus on how the ways in which religion, are taught that has impeded our spiritual, growth and our spiritual journey
right,
as a people. We want to talk about that especially in light of current events or recent events, that sort of a thing. Where, and I think how I really want to kind of go into this was the whole, don't get me wrong, family, I'm not really a big fan of this particular, what you call pop star, that sort of a thing. But I wanted to go into, particularly the whole fiasco and controversy around little Nas X.
Oh God.
I really kind of really wanted to, from that sense, go into segue into what that's about, as far as what people felt as though he was trying to say, or
And now,
basically it was just a reaction about it that had me thinking it really had me thinking and surmising in my mind that we're still there's still a lot of religious confusion and delusion going on with us as a people in regards to, of course, this video that he shot, or people said that other people were around him that was driving him and to doing it. And it's not so much that particular controversy. What I wanted to focus on, as I said, is our people's reaction to it. Because there was all these people out here saying that it was demonic, and it was this, it was evil, da 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 da, that sort of thing. So it's not so much to focus on him, it's to focus on the energy that was emanating from what he did, that sort of thing, as far as.
And now he's allegedly supposedly put something out there where he's saying that he's not homosexual anymore, that he was bisexual, and now he's not, quote unquote, well, they use the term gay, he's not gay anymore. I don't know if you saw that or not.
I didn't see that, but like I said, it's not.
And now he's supposed to be seeing a woman now, supposedly.
Right. Well, there was something else that happened during that raging controversy too.
Mm-hmm.
There was another gospel artist by the name of Donnie McClurkin.
Okay.
Who said, what did he say, Cortez? I'm pretty sure you could
He basically said something about he feel like he's gonna be spending the rest of his life alone. Because I guess, he's been trying to live up to these standards of what he should be as a man, and I guess trying to live up to being heterosexual. I don't know his exact words because but I do know he did say that he felt like he's going to be spending the rest of his life alone. Because he can't live up to the standards that's expected of him. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
That was basically, yeah. He feels like he's not going to have anybody in his life, because I guess he's trying to live up to a certain image or standard of being a man and all this and that. He never really came out and said anything in reference to his sexual orientation, as far as I know. But of course, he was dating this woman for a while. I don't know how far they went, but I guess he didn't feel totally comfortable in that situation. Right. He's trying to live up to something that he don't feel like he can fulfill at this time. So he said that he feels like he's going to be spending his life alone.
Right.
Yeah.
And like I said, it's not so much to focus on him per se. It's what came out of that and the reaction of our people collectively that came out of that, as far as these two performers are concerned, that sort of thing. And I feel that's where we can go ahead and segue into this
Yeah.
this discussion about, religion, as far as church is concerned, because of, what it really brought out was the like I said, the mass delusions and confusion out there that are still being harbored by a lot of our people because of the way that religion is taught, particularly where, the Black church
Right.
is concerned. And I will go ahead and wade in first about that. I remember growing up. And I remember that everywhere, pretty much, I'm growing up, in my mother's household. Everywhere I looked, of course, there were Black people. The only time I really saw, Caucus, those people, was when I saw them on television. But I didn't see them in my neighborhood.
Mm-hmm.
They weren't in my neighborhood. Now, when we first moved to the neighborhood, there were Caucus, those people across the street. But of course, as so-called, white people would do, once we started to move in, they started to move out.
Right.
That sort of thing. But I did see them across the street, and that sort of thing, and I remember, moving in, to the house that my mother still lives in to this very, very day.
Yeah.
And I remember, that, it was seen pretty much, as a step up. There were Caucasus people across the street, there were white people across the street, but of course, they moved out.
Mm-hmm.
So everywhere I looked, brother, there were Black people.
Right.
There were no white people around at all in my neighborhood from sun up to sundown. The only people that I saw were people that looked just like me. Okay? Other than the pictures
seeing Kenny Loggins on the wall.
On the bathroom wall, literally everywhere you looked.
In the bathroom too? Damn.
They was in the bathroom. Cortez, to be quite honest, and this is not a disrespect. Those pictures are still there.
Okay.
They haven't been removed.
Mm-hmm.
Some of those pictures are just still kind of there. It's almost more like sort of afterthought now.
Right.
But everywhere I looked as a kid, growing up, and I grew up very, very religiously. Everywhere I looked, there were pictures of this tall, stately, he was a looker. I mean, as far as Caucasian dudes were concerned, he was pretty much back then. That was, I guess, your standard of this. Of course, this was in the 70s.
Right.
Okay, so back then that was your standard of, I guess, what your standard of beauty was, and he was everywhere. He was pretty much everywhere I looked. When I went to, he was all in my home. I know I've seen him, all in my home, and that sort of a thing. And me wondering who this particular individual was. And I know one of the first thoughts, that occurred to me was, why doesn't this, if this, we understand that this individual was seen as the Son of God.
Mm-hmm.
Why didn't he look like, I know one of the first questions that occurred to my mind was, why did he look like me?
Right.
He looked like, of course, like the beautiful and the successful and the rich and the famous Caucasian people, that I saw on the television, but he did not look like the people that were around me. And not to say that the people around me weren't healthy and beautiful and weren't well turned out. More often than not, they were, that sort of a thing. Because we kept ourselves up, in the neighborhood, and it, it was just that distinction was put on you that you had to, in a sense, look, well turned out, that sort of a thing. But if this was the, why did the Son of God not look like me? Was one of the first things that I started, to surmise as far as having a concept about what this was and what was being taught to us as a people, and how I feel that we really, really, truly don't realize the actual damage that was done to our self-concept by seeing the Son of God as this, basically a person who looked like Kenny Loggins, that sort of a thing, and then all of the power that we were attributing to him, all of the love that we were giving over to him, all of the devotion that we were giving over to him, and all of the energy that we were giving over in due deference to this image.
Right.
But yet and still, we were only really, we weren't giving that, over to ourselves. We weren't giving that to ourselves, and we weren't giving that, to each other. We were just giving that to this image that was basically superimposed everywhere. Because, like I said, there were no Caucasian people, in my neighborhood. This was an all-black neighborhood. So that, like I said, the only times, that I saw a Caucasian person is when I, turned on the television, of course, and that sort of thing. Or, of course, when I opened the Bible, of course. And like I said, when I would look around and, of course, when I went to church, all of the pastors, and I've said this before, all of the pastors would be sitting up there, back then that was the days of, Swedish knits and, and polyester and Cutlass Supremes and all of that. And, the pastors sitting up there looking all dignified, but above their heads was a God that they were giving energy over to that did not look like them. So that, to me, was the first delusion. When I would pray, I wasn't imaging. When I was praying, I was not imaging a God, that looked like me. I was imaging a God that looked like, these rich and successful, Caucasian people, that I saw on television, who had everything, who basically owned the world. So where I'm going with this is how it impacted my self-concept, as far as who I am deeply as a person, that sort of thing. How I defined me was greatly impacted by that sort of thing. Now, of course, if you ask like some people, in my family, they may say yay, they may say they may say not, because I think that a lot of our people pretty much, particularly, are in denial about how much impact that really, really, truly had on our spiritual concepts, our self-concepts as a people, and that sort of thing. So that's where a lot of, I would say, that's where some of the hurt was emanating from. The other thing was how, like I said, basically me realizing, at an early age, that that I was same gender loving, and then when you take that and you compound that with what I was being taught, in church, it really, really didn't go too much, as far as my self-acceptance of who I was, just as, an inalienable being, just as a human being that sort of thing. So a lot
Mhm.
of the hurt first off emanated, from that right there, and my confusion around that, and my fear
Mhm.
around that. Because when we were coming up as a people, it was taught, that should be something that you feared. You
Right.
not only loved it, but you feared it.
Right.
You feared it, and you had to worship it, and you had to give deference over to it, because if you did not, it would kill you.
Mhm.
And when I looked into the Bible as a kid, God was this Caucasian man.
Right.
And this supposedly, this was supposedly, the creator of the universe.
Mhm.
The very reason why you exist, and this person don't even look like you.
Right.
This person don't even look like you. But of course, when you close your eyes, and when I say you, I'm talking about me. When I close my eyes, all of my energy, all of my devotion, all of my deference was being given over to this particular entity that did not look like me, and in reference to who I am as an individual, I really, really felt still really, really, truly didn't like me. As far as what was being taught at church, it hated me.
Mhm.
And I was going to, of course, when I was coming up, they would preach, which they still do now to this very day. They preach fire and brimstone.
Right.
So if you are not saved, I'm talking about the fear and the delusion. If you're
Mhm.
not saved when you die, and how you gonna lift up your eyes? That's
Right.
what I was taught as a as,
Mhm.
as a kid. And of course, the fear that generated from that, as far as my own self-concept was concerned. And then there was this other entity. There was, Jesus, or what I would call, Jesus, who was, like I said, this tall, stately Kenny Loggins looking, type of guy, looked like
Right.
one of the guys, that, was singing the Three Dog Night, that sort of a thing. And then there was this other entity who was supposedly against him, and, you know, against him.
Right.
And this particular entity was called the devil,
Mhm.
Satan. And this particular entity was seen as the wellspring of all of the problems in the world.
Right.
So that's what it was. And if I died and I didn't, have my this is what I was taught as a kid. If I died and I did not have my soul saved by this white entity over here that looked like Kenny Loggins, I was going to go to a place of never-ending torment with this entity. A lot of times, a lot of times he almost even had like a black appearance. A lot of the times, if you look at some of the medieval paintings, all of the saints were all done up in white, and in pure snow,
Mhm.
and all of the devils were these hideous, disfigured black beings. So what is that? What type of spiritual concept is that seeding in your mind as far as your own self-concept is concerned? That sort of a thing. But basically, yeah, if I died, I was going to this place where I was going to be tortured, basically forever and
Right.
ever and ever. And but if I died, and I was given due deference over to this white entity,
Mhm.
this, you know, if Jesus, that sort of a thing. I was going to go to a place where it was Sunday every day. It was everything was going to be sweetness. Everything was going to be light. Everything was going to be cool.
Mm-hmm.
So of course, it seeds of fear. As far as how you're going to live your life and how you're going to move about in the world. Because I was also taught that we were people in the kingdom, and the world was outside. It was out. The world was the place of the devil, and it was outside, and da 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 da. And that's what I was taught as a kid, seeing things in that black and white dichotomy and that sort of thing. So of course, it greatly affected the way that I saw myself, and it greatly affected the way that I saw other people.
Right.
That sort of a thing. So that's where a lot of what I would call, how the church hurt me in relation to who I am as a man. That's where a lot of it started. It started right at that particular point right there, which of course ties into this whole, like I said, that as far as the Nas X stuff is concerned, and why I wanted to, in a sense, I wanted to focus in on that to segue into talking about this particular topic. But go ahead and say your piece, brother, because I've been talking for a little minute now.
Well, for me, I never personally felt any thing about. I mean, I saw that picture of this white man up on the wall at my grandparents' house. It was in the living room, and I think we had it in my house too as a little boy, but it wasn't like in every room in the bathroom and stuff like that. It was just in one room, thank goodness. But I never personally looked at that and thought as this was some supreme being. I kind of like, it was just confusing to me because I never felt like, personally, I never felt like white people were above us or whatever. Any self-esteem problems that I had growing up did not come from looking at white people on television and seeing this so-called white god or whatever. The low self-esteem issues that I had came from the mistreatment that I received from like my biological father growing up due to some of his own issues that he needed to work on. The mistreatment that I received from him is what made me not love myself growing up. It was never about for me personally, it was never about my race. Um, I've always felt that black people were always felt like black people were better, even though I ended up in a church, even though I did end up in a church where the pastor was quote unquote Caucasian, but that was not the only church I've been in. Most of all the other churches that I've been to or been a member of over the years, the pastor has always been black, except for this one time I joined this church, and I joined the church not because of him. I joined the church because I liked the way the choir sounded. I went there one day with my sister and her fiance at the time, who eventually became her husband. And I heard this choir singing this gospel music. It was a black choir. The choir was all black. The musicians were black. But the pastor of the church was white. We're called Caucasian. I liked the way the choir sounded. So, I went up there and talked to the choir director, who was black. Asked him how could I join the choir. He said that I could come to the next rehearsal, and he wanted to take me in the back and hear me sing. I sung a couple of songs for him. A song that it was actually a gospel song that I wrote at that time, and I sang a little bit of a gospel song that I wrote, and I also sang a little bit of a Stevie Wonder song at that time, and he liked what he heard, so I became a member of the choir. And actually, I was on that choir for a whole year. I was on that choir for a whole year before I even joined the church, because they was like, when you going to join the church? When you going to join the church? I wasn't even all that pressed about joining the church. I just liked singing on the choir uh, at, at the time. I do, understand though, um, the psychosis of what you want to call it, of Black people growing up and seeing this image of a Caucasian in their house on the wall as their savior and stuff like that. When I prayed, as a child, I didn't necessarily, because for me personally, I was like, who was that white man up there? That's what I felt. Who was that white man up there? I didn't really felt a strong connection to this white man. And that's another thing that religion does to you. That's another way that religion hurts you, is because religion separates you from your natural spirituality, because we're taught to look at our spirituality through the eyes of this outside entity who is supposedly this Caucasian, which, like I said, it never felt it for me. It never felt right to me. But I do know, of course, there are a lot of Black people who did, buy into that. Um, I started doing things even at this church that I was going to, where the pastor was white. I started doing things that I knew made some people uncomfortable. Um, even this Caucasian pastor, because they started asking me to do things for like Black History Month, because they knew that I was also into acting and they knew that I wrote. So I would write pieces for Black History Month, and I didn't do no tiptoeing around white people's feelings. I've always felt a responsibility to try to empower Black people, because I always did see, I always did see this feeling from some Black people were feeling less than. I saw other Black people feeling less than, because of what's on television and how we portrayed on television and how Caucasians are portrayed to always be these wonderful people and everything. And I wanted to do something to counteract that. So I would write these pieces. Um, I would write these pieces that addressed the self-hatred and that would talk about where we actually came from, and the fact that we created this society. We created society across the world, and that we actually taught. And one of these pieces, I talked about how, we actually taught Caucasians and how we lifted them up. And I got the side eye. I got the side eye from the Caucasian pastor, and there was a handful of Caucasian members in the church, but the church was predominantly Black as far as the members were concerned. Um, my church hurt basically came from the fact that I was made to feel separated from the natural spiritual energy that I felt as a little boy. I was made to feel like this was something outside of me, and that's why when I was taught that homosexuality was wrong, you know, and I would have to go pray about it to you know change my ways and change the feelings that were naturally inside of me. You know, that that's what that's what hurt me, if you get what I'm saying, in the
Right.
church.
I get it.
And also when they started having like little cliques, they would have cliques in church too. You know, um, that's another thing that hurt me in church, the little clique thing. People want to maybe put you down or whatever over here because you might not have as much money as them and all this other kind of stuff, because some of our people buy into that thing about, even in church, some Black folks buy into, people who have more money are better and all this other kind of crap. Um,
Right.
but definitely I know for our people growing up and seeing this image, and I still see it today, and I see it on some Black people's Facebook profiles and stuff like that. They'll have a picture of this Caucasian man as their savior,
Mhm.
and I know that's one of the reasons why it's been so difficult for us to really get anywhere as a people, because we still see this image of this Caucasian as our savior, and that's why we won't stand up as much as we should. That's why we won't fight back as much as we should. As far as, and when I say fight back, I'm not necessarily just talking about, you know, being violent towards anybody or whatever. I'm talking about fight back mentally, fight back in the way that we strategize to empower our people to get us out of this system. Because I know that I don't feel like things are going to change under this system. Because you're never going to convince, you're never going to get all Caucasians to change their way. And a lot of our people want to believe that, you know, once the older Caucasians die out, that everything's going to be great. The thing about that is there's still a lot of racist young Caucasians out here. You know, a lot of these racist things that's happening are committed by younger Caucasians. So it's not going anywhere. It's going to always be here. And so the thing that we need to do is to make sure we start teaching the truth about where we came from as a people to our children, and teach them that we have a natural spirituality that connects us to the universe, that connects us to the higher power, the creator, whatever name you want to give that creator, whether you want to call him Yahweh or Yahshua, you know, because there's a big controversy about that as well, you know, as far as calling him Jesus, because, you know, but they say like 2,000 years ago, they said there was no letter J, right?
It wasn't.
Huh?
It wasn't. Like I said, go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
So yeah, so if there was no letter J, if you know this particular savior is real, first of all, he would be black. But if he's real, his name couldn't have been Jesus. If you say 2,000 years ago and there was no letter J, his name would not have been Jesus. And then also on top of that, you also have proof out here that there was life on this planet, human life on this planet. And I spell human a different way.
Right.
I spell human Hueman, human.
You spell it the new fangled black consciousness way of spelling human. That's how you spell it. Yeah, I get it, brother. I'm with it.
Well, yeah, I've been doing that for a few years, spelling it that
like
way.
Human, like Hue, human, as far as the color is concerned.
The color, the hue of black
as
people,
in color. I get it.
Yeah, that's why I spell it that way. And so there were human beings here much longer than 2,000 years ago. So I'm not going to get all into that because I'm not trying to disrespect anybody's beliefs.
We're not going to.
But there was human life here before they say Adam and Eve came about, who were supposedly the first people on this planet.
Who were also, when I looked into the Bible, who were also Caucasian. When I looked into the Bible, everything, and then of course, remember every Easter, you know, we would get all dressed up on Easter.
Yeah.
And we would go in, we would go out, and of course, that was, Resurrection Day. We still doing the same thing.
Right.
This is years upon years later, Cortez. We're still doing the same thing on Easter. It has never been broken. But when when I was younger, of course, we dress up and everything, stuff like that. And we come home, and on ABC, it would happen for some reason they stopped it. You already know what I'm about to say. On ABC, they would play the 10 Commandments.
Oh God. Yeah.
They would play the 10 Commandments with Charleston Heston.
Oh.
And I think you did have a few Black people in there, but they were the people who were just carrying
they were servants.
They were servants, and
of course they would do that. Yeah.
All of this. Of course, you had Yul Brynner up there as the Pharaoh, and then you had Charlton Heston as the. So still, even then, seeding in your mind that you and your people weren't really about anything. That sort of a thing. Of course, that's where the confusion for me set in, because the people that were around me were about something,
right,
and were about a good work. But of course, we could never really, what's the word am I looking for? We could never really truly help one another, because this shadow, this person was this God, was always there, and was always looking on us to see if what the hell we were doing. It was almost like an invisible eye. Like if I could make a real big invisible eye was on you, and everywhere you went and everything you did was being recorded by this deity that was sitting up recording every goddamn thing that you do. Even the more, shall we say, I'm gonna use this word right here. Even the more, shall we say, lascivious things you thought about doing, and everybody thought about doing them.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? As far as our relation to how we saw, things like sex and things like love and that sort of a thing. You know what I'm saying? Because of course, you had all types of fairy tales when we were coming up as a people. You had Santa Claus, which I wholeheartedly believed in. It.
Still,
you had,
I'm just go ahead.
The Easter Bunny, all of that.
Right.
All of that. But of course, like I said, getting back to what I was saying, just in the relation to fairy tales that are being taught. We came home, and just like clockwork, 10 Commandments would come on the television, and that whole mindset gets downloaded again and again and again and again and again for years. So what does that do? And you just pointed it out, brother. What does that do to your collective resolve to fight, to seek liberation as a people, when the majority of your people are still laboring and languishing and operating under a delusion that no longer really truly serves them or empowers them in any way? Right?
Yeah.
That's where, for me, that's where, in a sense, that's where the rubber, hits the road for me, as far as if I'm thinking that this particular, because we understand that during Easter, that particular teaching was downloaded again and again and again and again and again. That this particular individual rose on the third day, right?
Yeah.
He appeared, before his disciples, to encourage them, and to empower them, and then he went up into, and I remember seeing so many pictures of this Caucasian guy going right straight up into the clouds, and this same Caucasian guy was coming back for you, and you better be right. I mean, no harm. Let me just go right. Your black ass nigga, your black ass better be right when he get back.
Not that word.
Because if Cortez, we gotta go here, brother. Because if you're not right when he get back here, we already know what's going to happen. And as you just pointed out, and as I just seen the other day, I was scrolling through my timeline, and there's a few of my friends on Facebook, if you scroll through their timelines, you will see that same image that's there that we've been looking at, Cortez, ever since we were kids.
Right.
Because they were very, very effective at teaching us and downloading this particular teaching into us for years upon years upon years. And what I see now, based on all on my studies and based on the history of our people in relation to how we were taught, how we were reared, how we were subjugated, how we were enslaved, the whole nine, it was definitely done to break your collective and individual resolve to liberate yourself, because you never really, really, truly saw God within the self. God was something that was fundamentally outside of you, other than related to what they call the Holy Spirit.
Right.
And when I was coming up, what we had to do, and I don't know if they made you all do this at your church, Cortez, but what we had to do, we had to get on our knees. We had to tarry for what was called the Holy Ghost. And we had to get on our knees and we had to say, Jesus, we had to keep saying Jesus, Jesus, Jesus over and over and over and over and over and over and over, till really until the spit started to well up in your mouth, because your mouth was so dry from just saying it over and over and over and over and over and over and over. And this is literally, this is what we had to do.
Right.
This is part and parcel, in the way, that I was raised. We had to say that over and over and over and over and over and over again, of course, until you receive the gift, of the Holy Spirit.
Right.
And then, of course, you would start speaking in tongues and da 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 and up and down the line. And it was just something that I think that, when you repeat something over and over and over and over again, repetition is how you do what? Repetition is how you train your subconscious mind.
Right.
Your subconscious mind is trained through repetition. The subconscious mind is the powerhouse as far as the mind is concerned, because that's where everything on the subconscious level is automatic. Right. What keeps your heart beating? Your subconscious. What keeps you taking in breath and expelling breath? Your subconscious. What causes all of your organs and everything, to work properly? Your subconscious. Right. So as far as the subconscious level of the mind, we understand that the conscious level of the mind is the tip of the iceberg. If you ever seen one of those pictures of an iceberg where, the tip of it will be above water and the bulk of it will be underwater. And I'm pretty sure, you saw a picture like that.
Right.
The conscious mind is that tip of the iceberg that's above water. Below the water, which is the bulk of the iceberg, is what you would call the subconscious mind. So the subconscious mind is the powerhouse as far, as, when you're looking at the mind, and the totality. The subconscious mind is the powerhouse of the, of your mind. So if I'm already programmed on that particular level, that with everything that we were taught coming up as a people, as far as, like I say, in the way that you see the whole world, in the way that you deal with the world, is based on that, because it's already on the level of the subconscious. So once it got to the level of the subconscious, the subconscious, it's automatic. You are going to immediately act in the way that you were trained and in the way that you were taught.
Right.
One thing that you brought up too, as far as, the history is concerned, is the whole, Adam and Eve thing, and then, as far as, what the church, will tell you, as far as, the last, 2,000 years, is concerned, as far as, we understand that there was an age of Christendom, which was after what they would call AC, or what some people would say after Christ, or some people would say AD, which I call AD, pretty much after domination, and BC, which is, before Christ. That's sort of a thing. Those are the way in which, that the world, was ran, and who ruled the world, were two different things: before Christ and then after, or after Christ, or what they would call after domination. But of course, we're not talking about that on this particular segment. We're just talking about in the ways, that it impacted us, and individually and, collectively as a people, as far as referencing divinity, within ourselves, and how it greatly got in the way of doing that, and it still does. Because as I pointed out, I can scroll up on any one of my friends' pages, a few of my friends on Facebook, and they still have the image up there, still with the arms outstretched, and everything. And if I've been, why? Because it's resonating on the level of the subconscious. So it's an automatic program that's running in the background of your mind. It's running there. And even and a lot of times you're not even realize that it's still there, and it's still there, and it still wields great power in reference or in relation to how you see yourself, and how you see your people, and how you deal with the world. That sort of a thing, brother. To be quite honest. And I think a lot of where our collective resolve is, as far as building a road towards self-determination, lies in the fact that with a lot of us, it's what's the point? Because sooner or later, this particular individual is going to come back. He's going to crack the sky, and that's it. Everything going to be over with. It's no use to struggle for anything in this world, Cortez, if this world is going to just, if this world is just going to come to an end. That sort of a thing. So I understand, brother, it's a heavy topic, in a sense, to wade in. But I feel particularly where, as far as these two performers are concerned, like I said, it's not to bring so much attention to them, it's the reaction that I seen that was coming, from what they did, because it's, they get, Mr. X, I'm gonna call him Mr. Nas X, went on ahead and did a video. And I don't know if you've seen the video, brother, but in the video,
I've seen it. I already heard how I feel about it, but I'm not. I'm not crazy about the video, but
like I said, it's basically what I want to focus on basically here, Cortez, is religious concepts, brother. In the video, he goes down into what is called proverbial hell. Remember that I already pointed out that I was taught that if your soul wasn't right, and I'm pretty sure you was taught that too. If your soul wasn't right, you was going to go to this particular place. So in the video, he goes down to so-called hell.
Right.
He twerks.
I saw it.
He twerks on this being called the devil, which of course we were blaming everything on this particular being called the devil. But yet and still, when it came to us taking personal responsibility for what we were doing to one another and what we were doing to ourselves, we couldn't do that. Everything was emanating from this particular being that was out here that was called the devil, that was supposedly the creator of all the evil in the world. But the confusion with that one was, if God created every goddamn thing, and if he could see everything, before, it came to pass, why would you create a being like that? And then why would you create a being like that and then set that being into the so-called Garden of Eden to corrupt the two so-called prototypical human beings that were there, called Adam and Eve? Right. That sort of a thing. So we understand, what our concept as far as religion was concerned of what the devil was, or what evil was, and how evil, came to be in the world. Because at this time, I had, I had my doubts. Most definitely, I had my doubts, as a kid. I read a lot as a kid, so of course I had my doubts. But yeah, right. At one time, that's what I believe, because it was on the subconscious level of the mind. So I believe, that's how evil came into the world. Was through this particular individual called the devil. It goes by other names. We're just going to say devil here. That was the reason for evil coming into the world, although God created every goddamn thing. And of course, could honestly see that this particular individual right here was going to be really, really on some high betrayal as far as, the role that he was going to play in the scheme of things. Right. So taking us back to the video, he twerks on this being called, the devil, or what, a lot of Christians would call the devil. He twerks on it. Then he gets up, it goes behind him. He breaks the devil's neck, takes the horns off of it, puts the horns on his head, becomes an angel, or, right. Takes over the devil's throne. I think that's when the video was over with, that sort of a thing. And the way that people were reacting off of that, like I said, is really more so, not so much of him per se. He became a linchpin for things, because, he's out here playing with people's minds as far as how their perception, because he understands that a lot of where his power is coming from is in their perception of who he is, right, and what he represents. So I don't know if Mr. Nas X is doing that on his own, or if, a lot of people are saying, that he's being influenced by other people who are more philosophically savvy than what he is, that's doing that. I do know that he, on some level, knows that where his power lies is in how people perceive him. And so that's why, as you were saying, he's supposedly now he's not same-gender loving, whatever. That's not the case. What I really, like I said, wanted to focus on was just how people were reacting off of that, because what it was doing is it was messing with that subconscious programming that they have in their minds. Because now, as we were taught, this being was responsible for all of the evil, that came into the world. And so that's why he was cast down into this place, this horrible place, because he was, responsible for all of the evil, that, supposedly came about in the world. And here comes, Mr. Nas X along, and he's tweaking that concept, and and he's disrupting people's subconscious views of what that is, and that's why people are out here, and that's why people are out here going crazy, because of the conceptual delusions that are still resonating in their minds as far as what the this devil.
Well, what he did also
reinforced
in some people's minds how they want to think that all same-gender loving people are. Some people saw that video and they're like, well, see, That's what they do. That's how they are. So him doing that video, for some in some people's minds, made them feel like the ones who were already against singing and loving people are like, see how they do, see what they're about. Because of
Mm-hmm.
course they want to, of course they want to lump all singing and loving people together, and so that we all think the same, we all act alike. That's why they use terms like lifestyle and stuff like that. Because I've had that discussion with somebody before a couple of years ago, when they was using the term lifestyle. I'm like, why do you keep saying lifestyle?
Mm-hmm.
As if we all live the same or think the same. I'm like, um, first of all, black singing and loving people do not all live the same or think the same any more than all black heterosexuals live the same and think the same. Um, but of course, they want to try to say that we all think the same, we all do the same things, we all have the same type of so-called, whatever you want to call it, moral compass or whatever, that we're all into the same type of things, that we're all out here just running around, that we're all just out here running around, you know, um, fucking out of both draw legs or whatever the term is, or having sex out of both draw legs, is whatever
Mm-hmm.
that old term is. They want to think that we all think alike. Um, and I had this conversation with somebody before. Like I said, we don't all think alike or do the same things any more than all heterosexuals do the same thing, or think alike. Because you got some heterosexuals that are running around, horn around, and you got some that's not horn around
Mm-hmm.
or whatever. And then you same thing with same to the loving people. You got some that's running around sleeping with everybody that they can, and some that is not doing that. That do believe in commitment or whatever. I'm not saying who's right or who's wrong or whatever, but like that whole lifestyle thing that they try to throw on us, that we're all the same, stuff like that. And that, that video did reinforce that untruth. It reinforced that untruth that we're all the same, that we're all sex crazed and all this shit. It reinforced that shit in some people's mind. Um,
Right.
because some people are not going to look at that objectively, or however they think he may have meant it. And I am one of the people who said that I think that he was influenced by some people, also because somebody made it a point who loves this song. It was a black guy I know who loves this song, and he said he loves the words and all this and that. And he decided to show it to me. He pulled it up on his phone and showed me the lyrics and all this and that. And he showed me who wrote the song. And Lil Nas X he's not the only songwriter on this song, on that particular song.
Right.
It's like three other people that wrote this song with him. Um, so it's not just solely his thoughts that are on that song, because he had like two or three co-writers, you know. Um,
Mm-hmm.
that that's why even before I knew that he wasn't the only songwriter on there, I had this feeling that there were other people who had input on that whole thing. And then later on, I did see, like I said, this brother showed me, because this particular brother loves the song, and he was so excited to show me these lyrics, and and I saw the credits on the song, that the song was written by him and like two or three other people. So I don't, I just feel, I don't know if he would have totally did that on his own, or the his co-writers pushed him into it, or not pushed him into it, helped to influence him to do it, or what. And it's this whole thing that he's supposedly saying, that he's allegedly now saying that he's no longer homosexual. I I laughed at that when I saw that on Facebook, that he has supposedly now announcing that he's no longer a homosexual, and
I'm
he
just hearing about that today, though. I don't follow. Don't get it twisted out here, family.
well
I do not follow this. I'm
I
not
do
a
not.
big fan of
I
this.
don't follow him either. This is something that came through my news feed. I don't follow him. It came
I'm
through my
just
news
finding
feed,
that out. Like, real?
and of course, I put that what you call it, the emoji. What you call those things? Because we all created. I don't know if you probably didn't never create one that's supposed to be you.
I haven't. Yeah, I haven't done a what they call an avatar. It's called an
Yeah,
avatar.
avatar. Yeah, so I put, you know, I put my avatar on there, the one that's like laying down laughing.
Yeah, the one is they're looking all broken up. They
The one,
look kind of giggly to me. I don't really even like the way they look, but
well, that's
yeah,
different.
you be laughing. A lot of them they be laughing. They be laughing. They be laughing like just laughing out like that.
Yeah, so I put my avatar on this post that was laughing at that shit, like,
Right.
like, because I'm like that shit is hilarious to me. I mean, first of all, I don't even know if that shit's true, but if it is true, that's even more hilarious that he would that after he did that song that he would come out and say that he's no longer a homosexual all of a sudden. Now he he's into women just like that.
Because, like I said, it's not so much in he on some level. Although I do feel, although I really, really, truly don't know. So this is just me surmising. So don't quote me on this.
Right.
I do feel that there are some people who are more political, who are more philosophically savvy, that are around him, that are helping him out.
Right.
He, on some level, knows
Right.
that his power or his popularity is in how people perceive him. Either what they perceive him to be or what they don't perceive him to be.
Right.
That sort of a thing. He realizes that that's where the power is. It's in that. And that's why it makes this latest so-called thing, that he's doing, it makes it, more funny to me. It does make me, just hearing it, from you, it does, it makes, it's very, very, it's very amusing to me. The simple fact is he's doing it again.
I'm like, when I saw that, I'm like,
he's just making it, he's making it up as he's going along. But what I want to focus on with him, like I said, it's not so much him. And I've said this before, it's on the power of belief.
Right.
It's in people's perception of what they think that he is. And that ties back into how we were taught as a people as far as religion is concerned.
Right.
And why we can't really, really, truly get to a place where we're truly liberated and we're truly empowered, Cortez, because of this subconscious programming, whether you feel as though it was damaging or not, or whether anybody else who's a Melanite here feels as though it was damaging or not. It was damaging. It was really, really, truly damaging to us as a people by being constantly and consistently downloaded with the lie, that God doesn't look like you, God doesn't like you, that you're cursed as a people, that God does not live in you. And if you don't get right, with this supreme white deity, you're going to go to this place that's going to, the reason why that when he did that, the reason why that upset so many people is because of that very same subconscious programming that was taught to us when we were kids, as being taught right straight to the kids right now to this very day, as far as the Black church is concerned, because the Black church still wields tremendous power in our communities, in our minds, in our hearts, in our souls, and in our bodies. And as long as that is not corrected, Cortez, I you just I don't see it. I really, really, truly don't see it. And I understand, that not everything about the black church is negative. I understand, that people, that a great number of our people still find edification, spiritual edification within it. I'm talking particularly about not so much, about, understand that the black church at one time was a powerful vehicle or could still be a powerful vehicle for our liberation as a people on what I would call the mundane level or the political level. I'm talking about so much more so on the self-conscious, self-conceptual level or the spiritual level. As long as we continue to put these, to download, and you brought it up, brother, we keep passing the torch along, to, our incoming generations. As long as they're continuously being taught, the same delusions, Cortez, that we were taught, and looking at them same pictures of how God supposedly looks like that we looked at when we were kids, the same delusion is happening and perpetuating itself over and over again and again and again. And it greatly goes to why we cannot liberate ourselves overall as a people. Period. Because God is still something that's not in you. It doesn't even look like you, Negro. It looks like your oppressor. And so, in essence, what you got to do is you got to continue to do what? You got to continue to give due deference over to the very, very thing that's oppressing you.
Right.
Because of that particular teaching. And there's all this other, of course, there is a resurgence, of consciousness, that's going on amongst us as a people. And, it's happening and it's happening, it's having like an impact and that sort of a thing. But a great deal of our people, Cortez, are still caught up in that teaching. And yeah, they can hold on, I will say, because I need to be careful about that, because change can always happen. Change can happen at the last minute.
Right.
And what I would call, a change, for, the better. But a lot of, from what I'm seeing now, Cortez, a lot of people that I knew that, that was raised in the church with me, they're dying with that, Cortez. They're dying with that delusion. Still, they're dying, Cortez, with that delusion still resonating and perpetuating itself, in their minds as far as who God is, what God looks like, what your relation to what, that particular thing is, based on these erroneous teachings that we got. And I'm, going to say, that, for the most part of it, as far as our history here, we inherited, from, Caucasus people. Right. That sort of thing. And we took those, to be truths. And it is what it is, what it is, what it is, what it is. That sort of a thing. But to move on, because, we're heading up on a couple of hours right now. To move on, brother, I wanted to talk about, like I said, not so much focus so much on him, but focus on the energy that's surrounding him and the reaction of the, as far as Mr. McClurkin is concerned, because that's a whole, it's the same thing, but it's cast in a different light, because he's another one where he basically understands the public's perception. A lot of his power lies in the public's perception of who he is as an individual. Right. That sort of thing. And so, of course, a lot of what our same gender-loving men do, unfortunately, is they buckle under that particular, pressure. to conform to what society wants them to be. And they go in a sense, they go against what their natural, what I feel their natural orientation is, in a sense, guiding them to be. Right. And I remember seeing a sermon from him once, and him getting up on stage, and him excoriating. This was after, I guess one of his concerts or whatever, and he got up on there and he started excoriating people. Right. He's talking about, you need to be, it basically was all about, you need to be delivered, and from that, from that homosexual demon, all up and down the line, because he knows the power on some level. He knows the power that exists in that, and he knows the fear that exists in that, and he was tapping into that particular fear. And I would say negatively he was doing it.
Right. Because
he was supposedly one of the ones who was delivered. Now, this was years ago. Now we can fast forward it up, to now, and you supposedly, went on ahead and got married, and you did this and you did that. But
I don't know if he got married. I think he was dating. I don't think he ever made it to marriage.
Okay, so let me correct myself, because I don't want to, put out wrong information. What I'm trying to say, Cortez, is that, he was supposedly delivered from that.
Right.
Right. And then boom, now you're just going to be miserable, for the rest of your life, because of a belief system that's keeping you in this cage. And it's not so much to focus on him particularly, it's what's emanating from him as far as the energy is concerned, because we understand that everything is energy. How many Black same-gender loving men are sitting, would sit in church Sunday after Sunday, being beat down and being excoriated, and damned for who they are, as an individual. That sort of a thing. And he really, really, truly represents what a lot of where that was coming from, as far as the legitimacy of it was concerned, because he was supposedly one of the ones who was delivered from that lifestyle. That sort of a thing.
He tried to convince himself that he was.
Right. And how that divides us continuously as a people. Because I'll take myself, and use myself for an example. At one time, I really, really felt as though I was going to be, delivered.
Right.
I was going to be delivered. I was going to be, saved from this thing, from this affection, from this love, from this lust, that sort of a thing, because we understand that was of, the devil, and we understand, brother. And so I tried really, really, really hard to not be that. Only to realize that the harder, it's almost just like, when you would see on the movies where somebody was in some quicksand and they would struggle. They're struggling, and the more you struggle in the quicksand, the deeper in the quicksand you go, until, of course, you stop struggling.
Right.
That sort of thing. I was one of the ones who felt as though, that I was put under the impression that I was going to be delivered from myself. And of course that didn't happen. I had to ultimately accept myself, that sort of thing. So we understand that the division lies in how, if we're going to call this religion the great divider, it lies in how we perceive ourselves individually and collectively as a people,
Right.
and how we empower ourselves spiritually. And if we're still looking and still resonating with these particular teachings, how that fundamentally disempowers us as a people. That's sort of a
Right.
thing.
So I know that's what we're supposed to really get into the next part,
Right.
part two. But yeah, I mean, I prayed about it too. I prayed, that I would be quote unquote delivered and convinced myself that I would be. And I even went so far one time as to get into I went so far one time to get into one of these so-called 12-step programs to um, be so-called delivered and change my sexual orientation. Of course, I realized that that was not going to happen. Um, when I began to realize and see that the creator was inside of me and not some outside entity, that let me know who I am, and that being, that energy rather, that spirit of the creator was inside of me, uh, lets me know that that wasn't an issue. The fact that we're taught that this outside entity has a problem with it, that's what keeps us down. And but when you realize that spirit of the creator lives inside of you, um, that doesn't bother you anymore. Once you get to that, once you get to that level of that feeling, that realization that the spirit of the creator lives inside of you, um, all that other stuff doesn't really bother you anymore. You know who you are. You know what you need to do. Once you're in tune to that, just like the whole thing about being black first. Of course, there's some black people that have a problem with that. Also, that stems from the psychosis of growing up looking at a white, so-called white savior that makes black people feel like there's something wrong with black people who talk about putting black people first, because these same black people will praise other races for how they put their people first. You hear
Mhm.
black people talking about how, look at how Latinos stick together, the European Latinos, how they stick together, and how this race sticks together, how the European Jews stick together. Why can't black people do that? You have black people say that. Why can't black people stick together like that and put black people first? But as soon as black people do put black people first, those same black people got a problem with it. They start to call you so-called racist, which black people can't even be racist. We can be prejudiced, but not racist. And if we're prejudiced, we're justifiably prejudiced because of all the things that continue to happen to this day. But, um, you know, it's just that we've been taught that this being that we looked at on pictures growing up is our God, and that's why we won't stand up for ourselves. That's why we won't fight back. That's why we continue to forgive them for everything that they do, no matter what they do to us. That's why you got black people going out here hugging Klansmen and shit,
Mhm.
um, trying to get Klans members to hug them and wanting to hug on to some racist and all this kind of shit. That all stems from that. But you know, we're
It
going to talk
seeds,
about
it seeds a, and I hear you with that, brother. And like I said, resonate with you on that. It seeds a collective apathy,
mhm,
and like I said, it building towards you know what self liberation is and what self determination is.
right,
You know that sort of thing. It seeds that it's a collective, an individual and collective apathy.
yeah,
Because
yeah,
if everything is going to end at this, if everything is going to just reset once this particular individual cracks the sky, if everything is going to reset after that, there's why do I need to struggle for anything?
Right.
Why do I need to fight for anything? Why, do I really need to do anything? If everything's going to reset when that shows up.
Mm-hmm.
You see? Because
Yeah.
and when that shows up, of course, the world is going to come to an end. That sort of thing. And so I think that's another way, like I said, as was pointed out, it keeps us really truly going nowhere as far as our spiritual trajectory and our spiritual journeys are concerned.
Right.
That sort of thing. So let me go ahead because we passed, a couple of hours and, the hour and the time is spent. I just wanted to point some things out
Mm-hmm.
as far as, related, to teachings are concerned that I, and it's, since discovered, from my own study. You might have heard about it yourself. And then once I say that, we could just go on ahead and just,
Mm-hmm.
we can let this, we can let this go.
Mm-hmm.
Because the next segment is going to focus on more so, this was more so like how we perceive ourselves. The next segment is going to focus on the outer teachings, but this is on the nature of, what they, call, a lot of people feel as though, that, Jesus Christ is a person.
Mm-hmm.
In actuality, Christ is a state of consciousness.
Right.
Christ is a state of consciousness. And I don't know if you might have heard of this, yourself.
Yeah.
Christ is a state of consciousness. It's aspect of spiritual initiation.
Mm-hmm.
So once you go a certain way as far as your level on your spiritual journey, once you get to a certain level, you attain the level of what is called Christ, or what a lot of people will call Christ consciousness.
Right.
And it's related to mastery in the spiritual journey, or what is called the fully actualized God self.
Right.
The way that the Bible was taught to us was taught on the level, shall we say, of fairy tales. They really truly did not teach you the science, of living, that sort of a thing. So in essence, what it is, it's a code book.
Right.
And if it's taught from that particular level, not in the way that it's being taught now in most churches and tabernacles and synagogues and temples and that sort of a thing, if it's taught from that level, it could actually really truly empower us as a people as far as divinity being something that's within us and not something that, is without us or outside of us. God in the Bible really actually truly means over self or the higher self.
Right.
Jesus in the Bible really truly means the soul, or the journey of the soul in life, or in journey of the soul as far as the successive incarnations in life are concerned. The mind, the Holy Spirit in the Bible is your mind, or what I would call your divine mind.
Right.
So God is your higher self. Jesus is the soul, and your mind is the Holy Spirit. And that makes up the Trinity of who you are as an individual. So the whole full Trinity, based on my teachings, based on my studies and what I have learned, over the years, the whole full, or what they call the Trinity, is something that really, really, truly lies within you. But if you go to the church nowadays, they're not going to teach you that.
Right. Yeah, I know.
Yeah. I'm also going to say this, and then if I say this, you can say whatever, and then we can let this go, because we're past a couple of hours. Satan is an aspect of self related to the underworld or your subconscious. That's what it really, 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 truly is. In my, as far as my teaching, I'm not going to say my teachings, as far as my studies are concerned, it's an aspect of yourself, and it's an aspect of yourself that you really, really, truly get in. You don't excuse that aspect of yourself. You actually really, really, truly get in contact with that particular aspect of yourself, which I will not go into here
Right.
at this time. The reason why I wanted to point all of that out is to say that the way that we get taught is in church, the way that we were taught when we were coming up, and the way that a lot of the teachings are going out right now are false.
Mm-hmm.
They're really, really, truly false, and they really, truly don't do anything, to empower us, because the goal is to leave you on that particular fairy tale level of spiritual empowerment. They don't truly want to. I even feel that a lot of the black pastors know this and don't want to tell you this, because of course their congregations will start dwindling as a result of that. But they're not going to tell you that these are all aspects related to self,
Mm-hmm.
and have been over the years corrupted into things that keep people on a certain level of spiritual functioning, so that they can be what? So that they can be controlled.
Right.
And they can be told what to do, so they can be sheep-like, so they can be docile, so they can be easily domesticated, so they can be apathetic. And it is what it is, what it is, what it is, what it is.
Right.
So that's pretty much, all I have to say as far as, and yes, it is something that has to be ultimately corrected and repaired. If what I'm saying, if we want to receive full liberation as a people, it's got to be something that's got to be completely. You don't have to completely throw the whole thing out, but as far as the teachings are concerned, the teachings have to be repurposed and geared in another way, towards our self empowerment, and that's pretty much all I have to say, brother. Because you looking really kind of, you looking spent up here.
I look what?
You look spent.
Huh.
You look
Well,
spent, and I'm just being honest. I'm not
I'm a little tired. Yeah.
trying to be funny or whatever. You look spent. A couple of times there, you was doing this right here. So I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna let this go. I'm not gonna push it any further. I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna let this go. So is there anything that you want to say?
No, I mean, I just want us to wake up and stop being so hypnotized by stupid things, and every little thing they throw at us, we're hypnotized by it, like even what Glenn Close did at the Oscars, which, I happened to see a clip of it because somebody posted it.
Mm-hmm.
Apparently, it was something that was planned. So Glenn Close broke into a little dance at the Oscars. Um, they played a little snippet of that song, "The Butt." You
Mm-hmm.
know,
Talking about doing it in the butt.
doing the butt. That song,
Sexy,
sexy,
sexy.
sexy. Yeah,
Yeah,
that song.
okay.
So they played a little snippet of that, and she decides to twerk a little bit, right?
Mm-hmm.
And of course, black people ate that up. Thought that was so cute. And I saw some black people on my timeline talking about she invited to the cookout now. I'm like, God, really?
Like I said,
Is that all it takes? Is that all it takes for a Caucasian to be invited to the so-called cookout and sort of do some little stupid ass dance? Anyway. Okay.
so
Anyway.
much. Like I said, Cortez. That's why I brought up. Like I said, it's not so much the focus of those other two performers. It's to let us know where our subconscious minds are, brother, and where. And so that's why Glenn Close can get up there. You know, she's never really done anything for us or contributed to anything. You know, to us. But all it takes for her to, to get is, because that's what they think about you. They think that you're all just about that.
And apparently some of us, that's what we think about ourselves.
And that's it. And that's exactly how we think about ourselves. And there is an origin to that of how spiritually blunted, we are as a people, as far as that, as far as our spiritual growth and overall, like I said, empowerment is concerned.
Yeah,
and it all stems from the way that those spiritual teachings that we were taught and are still right now, Cortez, being taught. Right. That's why it's so easy to trick us. Because if you were taught to just be docile and be apathetic and and all this other stuff, and of course, your reward is not on this particular earth. Your reward is on a whole nother plane.
Right.
And that's what you gotta really, really, truly get to. It really doesn't matter what, it's so much, what happens to you here. Nothing matters here, if you're just gonna, like I said, if that's just gonna crack the sky and then you're going, you're gonna be caught up, to meet that as the pictures of the rapture, that I saw, where this same individual was up there, hey, I'm back, and we all flying up. We flying out of cars, we flying out of chicken joints, out of liquor, out of graves to go up and meet this.
Right.
That particular illusion, Cortez, is still resonating in our minds, brother.
Right. Well, when I saw this thing, I didn't say nothing. I see a lot of stuff I don't even bother to comment on anymore.
Me either.
But I saw that shit and I just shook my head when I saw people talking about inviting Glenn Close to the cookout because she did the butt.
I also heard that they went on ahead and they gave, if we're going to close this on current events with the Oscars, I didn't watch it. I didn't even know it was really even coming on.
I didn't even know either, but people kept posting this shit.
Of course, people post, because people are people. Let me just put it like that. They went on ahead, of course, post the subsequent transition of Chadwick Boseman. They went on ahead and gave it to your other boy, Mr. Hopkins.
Whatever shit. I heard about that, and
they went on ahead and gave it.
Yeah.
To him.
They get it to 83-year-old.
Whatever he did, I don't know what he did.
It was some movie that I did not see called The Father or something like that, or Father is in the title.
Which makes you think, who's actually sitting back and judging all of this? who's supposed to get the so-called Oscar and who's not supposed to get it? Who's sitting back and watching? Because I don't think anybody saw that movie. I never heard of that movie until tonight, until you're just mentioning it. And I just found out that this is what they did. And I'm like, oh, I said, there it is. I said, y'all always.
I never heard of it either until that, he said he was shocked. He said he was shocked that he won too.
Right, and what they said is he apologized. They said that he apologized because he apparently was, but you never, like I said, you never underestimate.
See, first of all, apparently he wasn't even watching the damn Oscars. They said he was at home asleep.
It wasn't a concern.
He's 83 years old. He was at home asleep. Wasn't
Right.
even thinking about that, Oscar. So
It wasn't even, it wasn't what I'm trying to say, Cortez. I really feel as though it was
mm-hmm.
a shot. Like he just wasn't concerned about it. You know, he went and did the role, and it went under the radar because nobody ever heard about it.
Right.
And he went on ahead and did it, and they went on ahead and said, "No, we're going." And I feel as though that it was probably some it was some old Caucasian men that set up
right.
and did that. And
Right.
we understand why.
Mm-hmm.
We truly understand why they did that. I'm not saying that Mr. Hopkins is not an excellent actor. He is, and I've enjoyed him in many, many different movies. So let's not go there. What I'm saying is, we understand that when it came down to really honoring that man, well, let's not say that an Oscar is really, really honoring him, because that's a whole nother part of that delusion.
Right.
Of us thinking that's as an actor, that's got to be the highest of the highest that you can go as an actor. So it might have been actually good, Cortez, that they didn't give the Oscar to Chadwick Boseman. For the plain simple fact is that builds away from this distinction in our minds that that's the highest honor that you can get in the world for your acting ability. So I'm gonna go there. But we understand that as far as what a lot of collectively people see that as the highest honor, this man didn't even know that he was even going to get it. He didn't even really even care, and then wound up, while I was reading, wound up apologizing about the obvious offense that sprang from that, which of course I don't find that offensive. To me, it's as we understand that Caucasian people are just as bought into the delusion as they've gotten us bought into the delusion. It is what it is, brother. There's always two sides to every coin with that.
Right.
and within that lies our freedom.
Yeah.
If we would just realize it. So, yeah.
Well, okay.
So there were a few people. I think the most we got, tonight was 3, and they really didn't hang out long. I think they just came out just to. I don't know why they, but we're happy and we're grateful for the 3, that were here for however short a time they were here.
Right.
And a great discussion. And so I'm not going to hold it any longer, brother, because like I said, the time is spent. We're going on like 2 hours and a half. We will be returning, family, of a couple of weeks, from now. We're gonna let this play out. A couple of weeks from now, we'll be returning with part 2. That will focus. This one focuses on the inner delusion. The other one will focus on the outer delusion. And what was taught, to us. And hopefully we'll have more people on, that sort of thing. But if not, of course, we'll carry the conversation, as always. And like I said, family, you see this video, click on, there's, the link is in the chat. Click on that, and it'll take you to the King Talk page on YouTube. And please like and please subscribe. Yeah. And that's all I got to say.
All right. Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Yeah, have a good night.
Hold on, man.
A brother hungry and sleepy.
Right. Hold on. Let me get this music up here. Because let me get this music up here. And then we're gonna we're gonna let it go.
Okay. All right now.
All right, family.
Yay, bye, y'all.
Take care, family.
Yes, take care. share, share.
Like and share the video. Go to the King Talk page on YouTube. Click on the link, and it'll take you to the King Talk page on YouTube. Like and share and subscribe there, family, as well. Want to thank my esteemed co-host, Cortez Ransom, for
Love y'all.
being with
Love
us
y'all,
for
family.
tonight. And I am Alex Iwas, and we are King Talk. Take care, family.
Bye, y'all.
Bye.
Love y'all.
Take care, family.